Yo, what's going on, Kicks Army? In this video, I'll be doing a sneaker drawing on the Nike SB Dunk Low Grateful Dead Green Bear. I will also be talking about the new public speaking aspect of KicksArt that I didn't even realize was going to be there a month ago. To put it shortly, if you're a student, I would like the opportunity to speak at your school of how I went from being a graphic designer to a full-time sneaker artist. But more of that later on. As always, I will have the direct link to this sneaker coloring page in the description below. And don't forget, if you like this video, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button. If you like these style of videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And with all that being said, let's get it! Before we get into the main topic of today's video, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives where millions come together to take the next step in their creative journey. They offer thousands, literally thousands, of inspiring classes for creatives and curious people alike, such as topics including illustration, graphic design, photography, UI and UX design, creative writing, animation, fine art, music or music production, film and video, marketing, productivity, freelance, web development, crafts, and more. Now, they actually have a pretty nice selection of free courses that you can go ahead and take advantage of right now, but the first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get access to Skillshare Premium for free. After the free trial ends, it's only less than $10 a month. If you're someone who's into graphic design like me, I highly recommend Aaron Draplin's logo design course. Thank you so much, Skillshare, for sponsoring today's video. So I had an epiphany lately, and when I say I had an epiphany, I don't really know what that means, but I just feel like it's the right word, so I'm kind of going with it. But it was during December, right when the year was about to end and I was about to go into January, starting off the year as a business owner. So for me, this is pretty huge because, I'm actually going into the new year with my own business. This is something I've never done before, so I want to make sure I do it right. So I go ahead and do a little bit of research, and apparently one thing that business owners should have every year is a updated business plan. And I did a lot of research of what's supposed to be included in one of these business plans, and obviously there's so many different types of businesses out there, so these plans kind of all vary in kind of the scope of what they cover. And even then, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to include. I'm just going to try to include some of the main points that I wanted to actually have defined, like for example, a mission statement, what my company's vision is, where I want to see myself in 5 years, things like that. And one of the things that I was able to realize in creating this business plan is one of the kind of short-term goals I really want to hit. And when I say short-term, I mean looking within the next 3 to 5 years. I guess it's probably more of like a medium-term goal, because long-term would be like, 10, 20 plus. I don't know, you get what I'm trying to say. And that goal that I set for myself is that I want to have a KicksArt coloring book available in every art classroom in the country in 3 to 5 years. Now, I did write it in the business plan specifically saying 3 to 5, but honestly, if I don't complete this goal within 2 years, I'm gonna be kind of upset. Only because of how I plan to go about doing this, it seems fairly reasonable to be able to complete this goal in 2 years, at least if I work hard at it, which I intend to. So let me go ahead and provide some backstory as to why I even chose this as my goal to begin with, and then I'll also tie in the public speaking aspect, which tags on right afterward. So why do I have it as my goal to have a KicksArt coloring book in every classroom in 3 to 5 years? Well, it's actually very simple. You see, the type of individual that utilizes the brand that consumes the content the most, whether it be consuming content that's video, so on YouTube or TikTok, or using the stencils that are on the website, that person is most certainly a student, usually in middle school, but most of the time they're in high school. And it makes perfect sense that my ideal user would be a student, because ultimately these are the people that have the most disposable time, right? Students don't have jobs, they don't have spouses, they don't have bills to pay, things to worry about. They don't really have a whole lot of responsibility as it is, so they have a lot of free time to do with whatever they want, and that's where they have the flexibility and the creativity to explore all their ideas and interests. Like for me, I was always drawing in school, but it wasn't until 9th grade when I first got into high school where I first fell in love with sneakers, and then all throughout high school, all I did was draw sneakers, and then that continued all the way through college and even now until today. Now, this is not all to say that just because, you might not be a student, it doesn't mean that you wouldn't find any value in the stuff that I make. It only means that I recognize that the biggest majority of the people who utilize my stuff happen to be students. So because I'm aware that this is by far the biggest group of individuals that utilize my brand, I want to try to figure out new ways to reach them. Because I've been making a lot of content on all these different social media platforms over a number of years, and I always want to continue to try to level up and find new ways to innovate. So around December, I had the thought, okay, if most of my ideal users are students, why don't I try making a more concerted effort into getting my products into schools where students actually are? And that's one of those thoughts where it's like, as soon as you think of it, it's like such a good idea, and then you're kind of upset at why you never thought of that very simple but great idea before, but whatever. And now I have the idea, I want to get into schools. So almost immediately once I start thinking of all those thoughts of the different ways I can go ahead and execute on this, I'm like, oh, well, I should probably try to reach out to art teachers in particular. Because when it comes to the coloring pages, which are by far the most useful things that I make, right? They have the most utility and they're the easiest for anybody to access because they're on my website and they're free, right? I felt like it only made sense to try to go and reach out to art teachers specifically because they're always looking for new resources, especially resources that are not only popular but free. So to go ahead and reach out to art teachers, the first idea I have with that is to go ahead and try to find art teacher Facebook groups. And long story short with that, I ended up joining about 5 different art teacher Facebook groups, each group that has about 10,000 people in it. So it's a pretty good chunk of people that I now have access to that are the specific people that I'm trying to reach. Because if I can reach these art teachers, if I can build a connection with them, if I can let them know that I exist and that I have these resources, they would probably be at least kind of curious, if not very excited about my stuff, and then they would include it in their projects or a class assignment or homework or something, right? But now they know that these resources are available to them. That's the key that I really want them to understand. So now I'm in these 5 groups. Whenever I post my content, whether it be on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, now I'm also posting it to all these 5 different groups so these teachers can see my stuff. And the feedback was absolutely amazing, and I didn't realize how useful that these coloring pages were, especially when it comes into tapping the creativity of students who normally wouldn't care about art at all because to some extent everybody likes sneakers, you know? And when teachers were telling me this and I was starting to realize their, level of enthusiasm and the practicality of what they were saying, it like completely blew me away because it made so much sense. I completely understood it. So from there I knew, okay, for sure, going towards the teacher's direction, trying to reach out to these people individually is definitely a good idea. I have to continue down this path. I started doing giveaways with these art teachers in particular, and of course they loved it because they love having the books in their classroom so they can show their students, especially the sneakerhead students. And naturally, if my goal is to have a coloring book in every art classroom in the country, there's going to be some percentage of those books that were donated from me. So naturally that kind of makes sense anyway. But I mean, it's still money that I'm kind of giving up to not only kind of package all these books together, but to ship them. So it's expensive to do this. I can only do these so many times. And that's ultimately where I got the idea of making PDF versions of the coloring books. So if you're not aware what that means, basically I have these digital PDF versions of the coloring books. That's, the 50 pages in one document. You can go ahead and open it up, press print once, and then if you have access to a printer, you'll have a full coloring book pretty much. Now you'll need to staple the pages together with like a high quality stapler or, hole punch it and then put it into a binder. You're gonna have to bind the booklet somehow, some way. But the fact that I now have the PDF options available is a great resource for teachers because again, if they can't go ahead and buy the coloring book, or if I don't have enough money to do a donation, they have that option, and that's going to be great for them printing as many copies as they need forever. So when doing all these things, trying to connect the teachers, I realized something else. I'm like, wait a minute, I have a very unique set of experiences that, well, at least I think, are extremely valuable for students to hear how I went about doing the things that I'm doing now and showcasing my story from where I started to, well, how I'm here. So I said, okay, I wonder if teachers would be interested in having me do like a virtual Zoom call with their students in their classrooms. I wonder if they'd be, interested in having me do this. And sure enough, man, were they interested. Like, okay, so at the very end of January is where I had this idea. And at the end of January, I had maybe 1 presentation. This is February 18th when I'm recording this, and I've already had 7 different presentations this month with another 6 lined up at the end of it. And just with the way things going, with the number of teachers that I'm talking to who are trying to double check their schedules and getting, looks at with the principals to make sure that they're allowed to do this, I could have potentially 40 speaking engagements next month. That's insane. And selfishly, I love doing these presentations because it gives me excellent public speaking experience. It gives me wonderful presentation experience, so like just that alone is huge. But also it's good for the community, it's good for the world. I'm trying to give back, I'm trying to show students exactly what's possible in the modern age of technology with the internet. I have an absolute blast doing these speaking presentations, and for whatever it's worth, even though I do these for free, they indirectly lead to a bunch of sales. That can be whether it be, a kid bugging their parents because they saw my coloring book in the presentation and now they're obsessed with it and they really want it really bad. Or it can be from a teacher who saw one of my posts on Facebook and they saw that I self-published self-published books and they had questions about self-publishing, and maybe they would have spent $100 on a course, but they send me a message, I give them 5 minutes worth of information that answers all their questions, and they're so happy with all the information I gave them that they buy a book. That's happened. When you try and do good with no expectations of anything back in return, good will come your way, guaranteed. So if you are listening to this, and if you are a student that's in either middle school or high school or maybe even college, I have a lot of experiences that maybe college students would find valuable, please go ahead and get in touch with your art directors or your art teachers or whatever. Let them know that I would absolutely love to set up a Zoom call, a Google Hangouts or whatever, and speak with their students on what's possible in the modern age of technology. Because I'm just a kid who used to like drawing sneakers, and now I'm a full-time sneaker artist, and I would like to show you guys my journey of how I did it. But that's gonna do it for today's video, guys. Again, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Please stay safe. Make sure you wash your hands, be kind to others, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.